Are you ready for us, Chelsea?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So Chelsea, I don't know if you've ever been to one of these, but we usually start with just kind of like give us a little bit of background, a little bit about what you did before, and then how you got into real estate, when, how long you've been in it, how the process started.
So we're talking before real estate?
A little bit before real estate, like blip.
Yeah. So I've been in real estate. I'm in my 6th year. I started with Susan Glenz as her admin and worked as her admin for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And I went to family reunion, and that's where it all clicked for me. I thought, this is the energy around being a realtor is different. And I wanted in. Before that, all through my 20s, I worked in sales. I started in luxury jewelry sales at Cornell's Jewelers on Monroe Avenue. And that was my early 20s, and David Cornell and Olivia Cornell mentored me and really helped get me polished and working with that type of clientele, which was new to me.
Yeah.
So I started there, and then I worked in, I was in the education director for a professional cosmetics company and Northeast regional manager for sales. So that brought me all over the place, and it was really cool, and I loved it. But then you have kids, and with 75% travel, that was kind of a deal breaker. So working in that taught me how to have multiple accounts, manage multiple accounts, and be able to segment out selling to new, so I think about that with sellers. You're sitting down with new clients, you're doing listing presentations, you're getting them set up, but also servicing existing clients and maintaining that relationship to try and drive repeat and referral,
Okay.
So that's the crossover for me.
Okay. What in that, I guess, did you learn? Like, is there any kind of like tidbits in there that you can give us from how those are different and how you work with both of them?
Yeah. How they're, how the,
Well, just that you said you learned how to like deal with new clients and service your old clients. Like, can you kind of dive into that a little bit more? Because that's actually really interesting that that's something that you think is a skill that you have.
Yeah. So, okay. So a little bit more about that. When I started in real estate sales, I did the disc. So those of you who have done the disc or done the KPA, it gives you like a 50-page printout all about what is your psychosocial behavioral norms and, who are you and what do you naturally do? And one of the things that came up either in my disc or my KPA, I can't remember, that my selling style was better suited to selling to new accounts than it was to managing older accounts.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, that's been something that I've had to work on my whole career up to this point, because it definitely is more energy sitting down and selling a new account or sitting down with a seller and signing a new exclusive right to sell, hitting the ground running. There's so much momentum. And then you have those accounts that maybe aren't as profitable, back to my old sales job, or those sellers that aren't so reasonable. They want to list high and then they sit, and it's like you kind of just poop out. Right. So I've had to really, in my mind, segment out how do I push myself over that hump to dig into those people that I'm committed to, that are committed to me, but just doesn't give me the same amount of energy. I'm just going to be completely honest. So it's really just about me being cognizant of how do I show up? Do I have to put it in my calendar to call them every Thursday? Do I have to put it in my calendar to reverse prospect? Like, what do I have to do to keep that energy going to service some of the older accounts or some of the sellers that aren't moving as quickly?
Okay, because your drive, your energy comes from getting new clients.
Yeah.
Which is awesome and fascinating, because I think most people dread that part, right? Like, to me, I love customer service. If I could just do the customer service and service my clients, that's what I love. The getting new people is so exhausting. So what do you do? How do you do it?
How do I get the new clients?
Yeah.
Okay. So this year, when I was talking to Jeremy, and he was like, so what's your deal? What is your like pitch or about you? What do you want to say? And I said, okay, well, I guess the one thing that you can say, obviously I'm a listing agent. If you know me, that's all I do. But this year I set a goal for myself, and when COVID hit, and there's been a lot of personal life changes for me this year. COVID hit. It was just such a weird year for everyone. And I had to really think about like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I've been able to outpace my goals. So what I think that to answer your question, like, what am I doing to find new business? The one thing that I think that I did during this time is I never waited for a new normal. I never even like, the new normal to me is weird. Like, this is just right now, present. There is no waiting, and you just switch gears immediately from, okay, I had 20 people in my pipeline, then COVID hit. Half of those people fell off. They didn't want to list anymore. They wanted to wait. They were unsure. So how was I going to backfill that during quarter 1, quarter 2, so that I could finish the year strong?
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was, and we couldn't prospect anymore. So a big part of my business the past 3 years being a new agent was expireds and for sale by owners, and you can't call them anymore.
Right.
So I had to say, okay, half of my business plan is out the window as far as prospecting for new business. So what do I have left? I have past clients. I have friends and family. I have professional resources. I have attorneys who I've sent massive amounts of business to that I haven't had any referrals from. So like time to make those calls that I just never did.
Yeah.
So that's really where I dug in. And yes, I do get energy from finding new people. I get energy from like hearing yes, tell me yes. And I'm like flourishing.
So excited.
And it can be a challenge to get to yes. And for me, that's where I'm like, it's the kind of the hunt
Yeah.
that I really like.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me to call for sale by owners or expireds. That was lazy.
Because you're not allowed to anyway.
Yeah, that was too much hunting for me. That was too much. No, thank you.
All right. So it sounds like you did what we're all being told to do. You went into your sphere. You dug into where you can go. Was that via phone calls? Was that text? How did you start reaching out to people?
Okay, so again, I'm going to be super honest. I was on these calls, and it was make the care calls, talk to people, see how they're doing. And like, not going to lie, I just didn't have it in me. I was in a hole, kind of. I was in, this year, my marriage status changed. I'm in a new apartment. I'm doing all of these things. Now I'm homeschooling. Now I'm like freaking out by myself, pacing around like a caged animal. I didn't want to make these calls and ask how other people were doing, because I was like, I had nothing. Like,
you needed the care calls.
I was over it. I was like, I have nothing good to say. I'm just going to be quiet. So Susan would kill me if she heard this, but I kind of said, I
recorded. I'm kidding.
But it's true, and now that I can look back and say, all right, well, I came out the other side, so I can tell, I could be brutally honest about this. I called the people that I knew weren't going to like drain every ounce of my energy. So the past clients that if I saw in Wegmans or Target, I would be like, I would hug them. Those are the people that I called. Not the people where we're like, thank God we're closed. Thank God. Didn't call those people. And then I just called my friends and family and had normal conversations about normal things because I couldn't put on the sales face.
Right.
And from there, it was more organic for me. How can I help you? How can that was organic. I just couldn't put it on. I couldn't.
Well, and how interesting that you didn't need to, I guess, because you actually passed your goals, right?
Yeah. So where that happened was, it was a slower pace. So the past 3 years, my goal was 5 to 7 appointments a week. Just throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. Just get me an at bat, and I'll go there and I'll, my conversion rate wasn't that high, but it didn't need to be because it was a numbers game. Right. And I found that I was working busy work all of the time. Like all of the time I was working between 5 to 7 listing appointments per week, servicing clients, kids, family. It was an enormous amount of work. So once I cut out that crap because I couldn't do that anymore, I found, okay, well, if I can go on like 1 to 2 virtual appointments a week, that's all I need. I don't need all of these at bats. If I just do a slow and steady, have normal conversations with people, it will come. And that's what happened.
So this is interesting. My coach is always, obviously all coaches are like driving to the appointments per week, right? But sometimes you're like, how do you just get appointments per week? So how do you get 5 to 7 appointments a week? Like, because if you don't happen to know someone in your sphere that wants to list, where do you drum up that business? What do you do? You need 5 appointments this week. You got nothing. What are you doing?
Yeah. So, okay. So I did a combination of things. So first I've always had a prospector, whether it's Lucas, whether it's catcalling, whether it's, whatever. I've always had a prospector who's helped me where I said, I need to count on you for at least 3 appointments a week. I
Okay,
need
so
it.
you have someone else helping you set up some
Yeah.
appointments.
And
Yep.
if they couldn't get 3 that week, then I would want them to backfill to hit at least a monthly goal of appointments.
Yep.
And then for me, it was a lot of just keeping on top of people. Once I started meeting with people, I built up nurtures. So you meet with people and you're throwing it all at the wall. Some people are not listing for a year. You just have to keep really good track of, when do I follow up with who? And then it started to like snowball from there.
Sure. Okay.
But honestly, I mean, yeah, coaches are going to tell you get 5 appointments a week, but I can tell you I did that for 3 years and I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And so I'm like, oh, I'd rather have 2 really good appointments a week than 5 to 7, like,
Eh.
Yeah.
yeah, it was,
Again,
yeah.
for the new person, though, it's hard to know how to get those appointments, right? It's like, when you're just trying to decide how to even get them, then you don't have the option to be picky, choosy. So would you have done anything differently in those first 3 years now that you know better? I mean, or did you have to do that in order to get to where you are now?
Yeah, in the first 3 years, what I would have done differently is my business model was I didn't want to call my friends and family. I didn't want to be, in my mind, I didn't want to be that girl who was like the, hey girl, that like Facebook message, hey girl, do you want to try my new product? I didn't want to be that girl. I had like my own thought in my head of what that looked like and I didn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'd rather meet the strangers, total strangers. If I could do it differently, I would have realized that I had enough value to go to my friends and family and say, hey, I know a lot about this one thing. I know a lot about listings. I know a lot about the market. I can synthesize data. Like, who should I know? I didn't have those conversations at first.
So would you have just been the hey girl and been okay with it? Or do you think you would have approached it a different way?
I think that I should have changed this script in my head about being a hey girl. I wasn't. And that's the thing, is that if you have something of value, if you have resources, like the MLS is a crazy resource. The moment I realized that was working with investors where they're doing flips, they're making their wealth plan, and I have all of this information and they don't. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the MLS is like a huge value, huge.
Right.
So just basic things that I took advantage of. I had to reframe it in my mind to say like, this is a big deal and I can help you.
That's interesting. And, I think that the big takeaway from that is, one, it's all about reframing it, how you frame it so that it's something you're comfortable with. Right. And really believing that you actually do have value, that you do add value, right? Where before maybe you didn't fully understand why or how. And so you didn't want to call them, right? Because I feel like every single new person ever goes through that process of not wanting to go after their friends.
Yeah. Well, when I asked people, I'm a very linear thinking person. Just meaning if somebody says like, know your value, I want to know, well, what does that mean? Like how? Tell me, give me steps to understand and internalize. What does it even mean? To me, that's so abstract. So for me, it was a process of like, okay, now I understand where my value lies. But I guess if I had to go back, I would say, okay, the first thing I needed to know is I'm really good with data. How can I plug that in? And like, who needs information? Like that question I could answer. To me, that makes sense. That's what's your value? What questions can I answer? That's where I internalized. Okay.
And that's what the next question I was going to ask you was, where do you feel like your strength lies compared to other agents? And is it in the data? Is it in that you love data and you interpret it and analyze it and can provide that? Or
yeah, I think my value, depending on who I'm talking to, because it depends on what questions or problems people have. So what solutions can I bring is really dependent on what problems they have. But when I started, I knew I didn't have years of experience to say, I've serviced 100 clients or even 2 for that matter. So I said, all right, I can look at the MLS. I can get really great with data. I can get really good with what does this data mean for you?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my value. And it still is, really. If I sit down with someone who's has information gaps in their mind to make a good decision, that's where I can really say, okay, this is what you're missing. This is what you need to know. And this is what it means for your plan.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that I'm pretty good at sitting with somebody who has a messy mind, where we can say, all right, you want to get here, but you've got a house full of crap. You've got, your people are living with you and da 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 da. So what's first, second, third, and fourth, and how can we assign dates to this, and who else can help you? So just chunking things down is, I think, another value I bring.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel? You've only ever been on a team, so you haven't had the experience of knowing like an individual agent, model versus a team model. But do you think that the individual agent has a place, or do you think that over time it's all going to turn to teams?
I think that the agent who makes strong connections has a place. I think that that's really where it is. I think that nothing can backfill the strength of like that human relationship.
Right.
So I think where on a team I experienced explosive growth. Now I'm starting to also see that the slow and steady is just as profitable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how quickly do you want to get there? And really, I've likened my experience on a team to almost an emotional growth. If you look at if you've ever known a kid who graduated from high school before they were due, they're graduating from high school at 15 and they go to college and they're intellectually ready, but emotionally they're a fish out of water. That's kind of how I felt joining a team where, okay, I've got the knowledge, but it was so much at once where it was almost like it's overwhelming. So yeah, I think there's a place for individual agents. It's just whoever makes the strongest connections win,
Yeah. So speaking of connections, do you have any processes in place? Like, do you network? Do you join those, BNI type groups? Like, how do you grow your sphere? What is your strategy?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like an introvert. So to me, walking into a networking group makes me want to, nope. That was not my strategy.
Nope.
Nope.
And that makes me chuckle because I don't know. You present like totally opposite of that.
Really?
Yes.
But then you see me in the office and I'm like, hey.
No, but okay. So a personal plug for you here. I have heard about your data classes and stuff that you used to teach. What were they called? I can't remember.
It was just, I don't know what it was called. But it was
analysis.
Yes.
What was it?
Inventory analysis.
Okay. So we've got to get you on the docket to do that again because you are absolutely amazing at that class. Anybody that's ever taken that has loved it. Like you just blow them out of the water. So yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
if you like numbers and you're like, totally. But yeah, so for me, if I have something to talk about, I'm good. I can talk about that thing forever.
Right.
But I'm not a small talk person. I'm not someone, if you want to sit down and have like a deep conversation, I'm your girl. If you want to like talk about a thing that you feel passionately about, I'm there for it. Not a small talk person. So for me, like a BNI group or networking, it just makes my skin feel like it's two sizes too small, very uncomfortable. Didn't like that idea. So instead I found people that I really connected with, like my attorneys, painters. And I also said, you know what, if I know I cannot small talk or I don't want to small talk, I can be the girl who connects people. I'm really good if you need someone on your team. If you need, I'm good at connecting. So, that's what I would do. I would connect people versus be all over the place. I just went deep with a couple people.
Yeah, it sounds like instead of spreading this huge net out, you kind of kept it smaller and more focused.
Yeah.
And more meaningful.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just fits my personality better.
Yeah, and then I think that's important is understanding who you are, where your strengths are, and what works. I think with all of this training, like what someone teaches you may or may not work for you,
Yeah. Yep.
So it is very interesting. Speaking of painters and vendors and all of that, do you have a process for keeping those relationships, nurturing them? Do you send them gifts? Do you make calls? Do you, other than connecting? I mean, what is your strategy with that?
No, I send them referrals, and then they send me gifts. Just kidding. Not kidding. I love it. So yeah. So no, for me, it's, okay. So for example, I have a painter. I send him referrals, whatever. And we start talking and he tells me, oh, I think I might want to invest. Okay, cool. Do you want to invest? Like, what's your history? And then I remember that. So he told me that 2 years ago. So anytime I have a house that might be whatever, or if I make a connection with a wholesaler, or if I make a connection with like a wealth partner, I'll call him and say, hey, I don't know where you are in your life, but I just met a wholesaler. You might want to talk to him because he might have good deals for you. So just things, I try and remember what people need, what they want, what they like, and then it's sticky in my mind. So then I'll connect them with those things.
Okay.
So it's outside of just, you're my painter, we only talk about painting, or you're my HVAC guy, we only talk about, I try and make it a value.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As far as like client appreciation, what do you guys do in terms of, I know the Susan Glenz team does a ton. Is it all as a team, or do you do individual things as well?
I don't do individual things as well. I leverage the team for that because I know that they can do it with greater consistency than I can. If I think of something like one off here or there, like I have a client who I remember wanted to learn about birds. So I saw a book, about like exotic birds, and I sent it to her. But that's not systematized. That's just remembering. So the Susan Glenz team has monthly rewards. So when you close, you don't get a closing gift. You get almost enrolled into this program. So every month, 4 times a year, we have client events. And then every month we have a giveaway where we usually have like 25 spots. And we wanted to train them to open our emails. So they know that once a month they get a reward. So check your email once a month when the reward emails come out. And if you claim your spot for the giveaway, you can come pick it up. So then they come pick it up every month and we see them. So it's not only training them to open our emails, but training them to come to our office, interact with us face to face. And so that was the end goal. And that's how we did it. So it's not just gifts. There's a reason we're doing it.
Right. So that's interesting. So you have to claim a spot, and there are a finite number of spots, which is good because then you can keep your costs predictable.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is there like a price point you try to keep those with, or does it vary throughout?
I think I'm sure it does. We have Lisa who has all of that like masterminded. But I think that if I had to guess, I would say that our budget is like maybe $30 per. So we did Marty's Meats gift card last month. Prior to that, we did a really fun one with Aveeno where we did a cooking class, a virtual one where the head chef of Aveeno, they came and picked up their food box, kind of like a HelloFresh or Blue Apron or whatever it is these days. They came to pick it up at Aveeno from us face to face, like they just drove through for COVID.
Right.
Picked up their box, and then Sunday night they tuned in at 6:00, and the head chef walked them through how to cook this really beautiful meal. So that was fun. So
I saw that. That is fantastic. Did you have to put those boxes together? Did you pay someone to put those boxes together?
No, Aveeno they sourced all of the ingredients. There was wine pairing in there. Aveeno did everything. We just showed up and like delivered their boxes. And
no cost to the clients on that one.
Correct.
That's fantastic. I mean, that is fantastic. And who wouldn't want to do that? I bet you got a fantastic turnout.
We did, and everyone, you could see, we asked everyone to keep their cameras on so you could interact. It was fun.
That's awesome. I love, and like you guys are always thinking outside the box, which is great as well. Like, not doing the same old, thinking of new things.
Yeah.
Which is great. So what about like organization and systems? Do you have any thoughts, recommendations on like how you plan your day? Is it structured, or are you a free flower?
No, for me, I am by nature disorganized. So I have to put systems in place to stay organized. Paperwork is the bane of my existence. I hate paperwork. I am a procrastinator when it comes to things like that. So I have to time block. Or else I'm the girl that will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a panic attack. Like, oh my God, I forgot, you know?
Yeah. So give us a little example of your time block. How does that day look like for you?
Yeah, so it was very regimented pre-COVID, admittedly, but the way I had it chunked out is I knew I had to assign time for certain things. So I had to assign time for lead generation. I chunked out the most important, they talk about the rocks, the pebbles, the sand, the water, when it comes to that kind of thing. So I knew lead generation, I wanted to have 10 hours a week in lead generation. So I chunked that out in the morning when I'm fresh. So I would do lead generations in the morning. Usually by 11 I was done. Then I had team time on Monday. So we have our team meeting, we have coaching and training. I have a business coach, and then I have Susan, and then I coach someone else. So I had 3 different time chunks for coaching. So that was a non-negotiable every single week. And then I had just like tasking, the things that you have to do and that could take you the whole day. So follow up on phone calls, follow up on emails. I never found a perfect balance to make everyone happy on that. FYI, that's just the truth. But when am I going to do that so it doesn't overtake my whole day? So I had just basic time blocks, and then time block in time for kids, time block in time for, the other things that are super important. That with real estate, your day, it could just go on forever. There's really no start and stop time unless you build it in.
Right.
So, and then you have to retool it. So right now I'm trying to like retool my time block because it is a little free form, admittedly.
Yeah, I think it's one of those disciplines you got to kind of keep on it, right? If it's not your nature, which is not.
Yeah. Right. I do struggle. There was a no. I'm sorry. How many times have you capped? What is the quickest I didn't know do you guys do questions? Sorry.
Yeah, they do questions.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yep. I've been putting comments in there about your darn monkey mind.
I do. Yeah, it's true. I am all over the place. And that's, again, why like I need systems, because if I don't, I'm all over the place.
So a question came in about how many times you capped and what is the quickest that you capped?
I've capped every year. The quickest I've capped, my cap reset is in April. This year I capped in June. June. So I think that's the quickest. April, May, June. Yeah, 3 months.
Okay. And did it take you a while to get to capping, or did that happen pretty quickly when you started 6 years ago?
When I started, my first year, I capped in August. And I remember I thought like it would never happen. I just thought it would never happen, but then it happened. And I was like, oh, I could do this. Sure.
Then it becomes kind of like a game.
Yeah.
I beat last year?
Absolutely. And then so every year I've beaten my cap date.
Which is awesome. That's a good goal to have, right? To try and do it a little quicker each time.
Yeah.
What are some good strategies to share on capping?
Yes, or even just to our newbies in general, like people that are just getting into the business, having to figure this crazy world of real estate out. What do you recommend?
In general or to cap?
Both. How about let's do general first?
Yeah, I think in general, for me, I spent a lot of time on my mindset, because for me, I had a lot of doubts. I had a lot of frustrations. I wanted to go faster than I was going, and, financially and all of that stuff. And I had to find in my mindset a way to like just be at peace. I do have a racing mind all the time. So I had to find a way to just like relax into it, so I wasn't an anxious mess a lot. So that's, for me, what I needed. And then for capping, I think that, again, it's a byproduct of staying focused and staying consistent and staying, if you're about your business every day, time on task over time, if you can do that every day, you're gonna, you take one step and then the other and then the other, and before you know it, you're where you need to be. So just stay really super consistent.
Right. So true.
Oh, this is a good one about work-life balance, especially during COVID. Your kids are probably exactly a year older than mine. So mine are going into 5th, going into 7th. And how have you been doing it? How have you been being a mom and working while they're here with you all the time?
It's not been perfect. I had to throw away my concepts of perfection and what does it look like to be a good mom. Because a good mom in my mind, they only played video games for an hour and everything was, that I had to get over that because I have made a commitment to them. I've made a commitment to work. I've made so many different commitments, and there are certain times where I have to say, you know what, like the meat of this commitment with my kids is going to come today, but it's not going to come until 4:00. So until then, if you want a free play and you're happy and you're content, cool. You know what I'm saying? Instead of me making like a healthy mom lunch, you want to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, as long as you clean it up, go for it. Like, be fed.
Right.
So I had to like change that in my mind of what does it look like to be a good mom, because it's just, you have to do what you have to do. You know what I'm saying?
You have to get the work done, and the kids can't be with you every second of the day. So.
Right. I am not an entertainment director. That's not my job. So I had to, I had to say,
for.
I'm not going to have like bags of what, I'm not that mom. Be creative.
Figure it out.
Right. Go jump on the trampoline. And when you're sick of that, ride a scooter or not. But just, I had to rely on them to be kids instead of me directing their every moment.
And I'm sure you probably found that they adjusted as you needed them to, because they're adaptable as well, right?
Very, very. And I think that the more I ask them to be responsible for how they spend their time, the less they come to me and say, I'm bored. Like if I heard I'm bored one more time, I was gonna explode. So I needed to train them to like, you think to entertain yourself, like do the things that make you happy within the bounds of what's acceptable.
Right. Absolutely. I had 2 things I wanted to come back to a little bit. One of them was your lead gen morning. So what does that look like for you? How are you lead genning in that morning time block?
So sometimes I tell myself this week, I just need to have 10 conversations. I am super busy or just really not in the mood. And I just need to have 10 conversations with people, whether that's talking to a current client, asking them, who should I know that you know, whether it's someone who needs help in real estate, someone who's really good at contracting, or even like, give me a recommendation of like, what's the last best meal you had at a restaurant? I don't know. Just let's talk about something outside of real estate. Give me a recommendation.
Okay.
So just 10 conversations a day would be my minimum. When I'm really structured, it would be 10 conversations about who do you know? 10 conversations about, whatever, trying to like pull business. So as long as I can have 10 conversations a day, I'm good. And if I could do
that's your like, win the day. The Brian Buffini method has this like win the day. If you do these things, you've won your day. Like, and so for you, winning the day means you've had those 10 conversations.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I was thinking about, and this was way, way, way back to the beginning, was you talked about working for Cornell's Jewelers. And like those guys are kind of masters. So what did you learn from them from a sales standpoint on how to service clients? And I bet you learned a ton.
I learned a lot. I was like a baby when I started working there. I was brand new, not very refined. I didn't know about diamonds. I didn't know about the technical, and I was terrified of being there because it's fabulous and whatever. So I learned that when I saw it was a lot of women that worked there, and I noticed that a lot of the women wanted to sell diamonds. There was a lot of competition to get in the diamond booth, sell diamonds, engagement rings, knowing the technical aspects. And I felt like it was really saturated with what the salespeople wanted to do. And I thought, okay, so if diamonds were $12,000 to $20,000 a piece, and you're calculating your commissions, I know that over here in the watch department, it was one part-time guy, but nobody wanted to learn watches because they weren't as sexy as diamonds.
Right.
And I thought if I learned watches really well, and some of these watches were like $30,000, like they're very, very expensive. If I could build a base of watch collectors versus one-off diamonds, that's what I'm going to do. So what I did is I learned watches really well. People did not expect a 21-year-old like girl to be in that like man's world of like technical movements and watches and all that stuff. And I thought, well, that's where I'm going to go because the diamond world is very saturated with salespeople. So that's where I built my business, in my book of business there. So that's where I learned clienteling, having a niche, kind of finding where there's a need versus jumping into an oversaturated pool. I learned how to talk about features and benefits. When you're talking technical, it needs to connect with what your client is looking for.
Sure.
And when to use the buzzwords and when to just be a normal human being and have a normal conversation.
Right.
But they called it clienteling, which was when you have something new, when something comes in, remember who's a collector of what and be able to call them and say, hey, we just got in the brand new, Tissot. We got in a brand new blah. And it's super cool. And you could be the first one to have this in Rochester.
Yeah. Which kind of comes back to you remembering.
Yeah.
Right.
Who needs what? Yeah. Remember who needs what.
Do you have a system in place for remembering that? Because either you have a fantastic memory or you write it down somewhere. There's a system for that.
No, I don't really have a system. I'm just nosy as hell. So I'll ask a lot of questions and I find it interesting what people say. So I tend to remember things like that.
Okay. So it's just the gift that you have to remember that sort of thing. That's awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
I'm sure one day I'll kick myself. Right now I'm like, yeah, I remember everything. And someday I'm going to be like, all the stuff that went in and out of my head, it could have been, but right now, just being honest, no, I just tend to remember stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? You guys are welcome to unmute yourself and ask Chelsea.
I know Rita normally has some good ones.
Chelsea, I have a question for you. It's Andrea. How are you?
Hi, good.
Okay, so my question is, when you say I have to make 10 conversations a day, you're talking, you need to like talk to them. That could be 25 phone calls, but you have to talk to 10 people a day.
Yep. Yes, just have 10 conversations. And sometimes I have to show myself grace and say, if one of those conversations is my mother because I'm just having a day, then I need to find a way to, there's always conversations to be had regarding real estate. And she connected me to, actually, I had no idea she knew this person. And this person has been a great resource to me in my life, just asking my mother the question of like, who have you met recently and you think is super cool? Does anyone know Deb Cleveland? She's like the queen of Geneva. She did like tons of flips. She's a really cool lady and she's a huge resource for investors. So my mom met her in like a Home Depot. They were picking out paint colors. They got chatting. They exchanged numbers. So weird to me. I would have never, but she did. And I connected with Deb and Deb connected me with like a whole strategy of building like investment wealth. Totally random. So even if I'm just not in the mood, if I make myself ask the people I would normally talk to in a day, what else is going on? Who have you met recently? You never know what you're going to turn up with.
So your 10 conversations have to at least somewhere delve into real estate. It can't just be calling your friend and,
And if you're going to, then you have to ask like, hey, next time you're driving around, if you see a for sale by owner sign, it looks like this, just take a picture and send it to me. And I have friends who do that all the time. They'll just send me pictures like that. So somehow figure out a way to ask the question or do something, because everyone has those days where you're like, I would literally rather eat a light bulb than make 10 conversations to strangers today.
Yeah,
sometimes it takes the whole day.
It could take the whole day.
Yeah. I mean, I was clocking them at one point, how long my conversations were. Some were 7 minutes, but some were like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's exhausting to get up the next day and say, I got to do this again.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
I'll tell people if I'm going to call one of my girlfriends, I'll call them and say, hey, Tina, this is a business call. And she'll laugh at me and make fun of me. But she knows that like, okay, let's do this. Business call. Go for it.
Yeah. Right. And you know what? You're not being like shady. You're not being like, hey, how are you? By the way, you're kind of being upfront, which I think people probably appreciate. Right?
Well, that's how I got around being the hey girl. To be like, you know what, this is a business call. I was thinking about you because I know that you're really well connected in the homeschool mom group, or, you know, I know that you're really well connected here. And I was curious is, you know, who do you think I would connect well with, whether it's for an immediate real estate need or just that we would do well. And other business women. Oh, that's another thing that I did. I started saying, okay, I know a lot of female entrepreneurs. I would call, hey, Monique, I know you know a lot of female entrepreneurs. Can you invite one to coffee with me? Who should I know that, like, nothing to do with real estate, but just get in their mind and share ideas? Like, invite them to coffee with me because I want to know them. So I would do that a lot.
And you found that worked? One, that they were receptive to that, and two, that those copies translated to more connections.
I met so many cool people. I met so many, because if you call another entrepreneur and you say, who do you know that needs real estate help? It's more, they expect a business call versus like my grandma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm more comfortable asking the questions to contractors, other business to business calls, things like that, other entrepreneurs, much more comfortable for me than just like my neighbor. That's weird to me.
Right.
That's just me, but it makes me feel funny.
Right. Well, business owners get it because they're business owners and they know. Yeah. Right.
Right. And it makes sense. So that's what I did.
Okay.
I would recommend doing that. That's actually a fun way of prospecting.
I will say, so, you know, with that reverse bold 100, you know, where instead of calling 100 people, you like throw out a prize and you get them to call you. I was shocked at like the business owners that were like, this is so great because I know you're going to ask me a business question, but I'm calling you, which feels better than you calling me. And I was like, oh, it was interesting that they actually like articulated that, you know, because they do. I mean, people know when you do these things that it's something to do with business. I don't just love giving free stuff away for no reason, you know? Sure. So, interesting.
And then saying it, getting out in front of it and letting them know sometimes takes the pressure off of me to like, how's the kids? Have you gone on vacation? No.
Yeah. And then you throw the ask and they're like, I knew there was a catch.
Way, I just thought about this funny question.
Yes. Hey, girl. Too funny.
Hey, girl.
All right. Anybody else? Questions out there?
Yes, I have a question. This is Rita.
Hi.
So I was listening to you blocking your time and making 10 calls a day, and you're definitely, I'm hoping to cap soon here, but I can't seem to fit it all in a day. And sometimes like at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I have like, not anxiety, but I'm like I can't breathe because of all the work, or the phone doesn't stop, or the emails don't stop, and the text messaging doesn't stop. And if I hear my phone one more time ding, I'm going to have like a nervous breakdown. I mean, do you have those days where it's like, and I didn't finish all my tasks either. I didn't.
Yeah.
Tasks.
I have those days a lot, and I think I've demonstrated that I am all over the place, and I'm very susceptible to, if the phone rings, you pick it up. If you get a text, you look at it. If the email, you look. And I found that I am so pulled, I let my day direct me sometimes. And so my coach had me, really what it was for me, time blocking, yes, but it was organizing my thought and just being a little more like just relaxing a little bit. And so how she got me to do that was she had me do a do, dump, delegate list, or delete. So what that is when you have so much in your head and there's so much going on, like silence your phone, give yourself the gift of 15 minutes and just write down all of the things you have to do. And then the first thing you're going to do is cross off what is not essential, like dump it, dump the things. And then what can you delegate? What can you defer to tomorrow? What's tomorrow's worries that I can worry about tomorrow? And what is the most immediate thing that needs my attention right now, or else the world falls apart? So for me, it was just getting the clarity of mind to write it down physically on paper and just get really clear on there's really only 4 things that need me right now. And then for me, the phone and the email and all of that was so stressful. I haven't found a good system. I just have to give myself grace to know that I will get to it, but they might have to wait. And that doesn't make me a bad salesperson or doesn't make me bad at client care. It just means right now, I need a minute. They need to wait a minute, and nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to burn down.
Yeah.
So that was how I fixed that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do think sometimes, Rita, with the individual agent, we're trying to kind of keep up with the Joneses of the teams. And so you have to be like an advertising person and this person and this, and it's hard. It's hard to be all those things and get it all done in a day. You know,
That's perfect. Yeah. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but some of the Joneses have groups, have teams.
Yeah. But I do have to say, even on a team right now, we're down a listing coordinator. So the person who would help me do all the admin stuff that is soul sucking to me, we don't have. So I'm doing that part. There are times even on a team where you have to take back a lot of the work because you're down on staff or you're whatever. And for me, because I have a lot of listings, I get a lot of agents calling. And I know if I don't call them back, they're going to get pissed off at me. And a lot of agents, if I don't text them back in 2.5 hours, their hair's on fire. And I have to realize that that's a them problem, not a me problem. And as long as I get them their questions answered, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes agents can get all wrapped up and you can't get caught up in their drama. Like they can make you feel more pressured than you need to be.
Oh, absolutely. That's their expectation, not my expectation. And sometimes I had to and sometimes things genuinely fall through the cracks. Hello. I mean, it just does. And sometimes you just have to be really good at apologizing.
Yeah. Be like, sorry, I missed it.
No, sorry. It's true.
Fallon, we love teams, but I was trying to articulate, Rita, with it does feel when you're not on a team sometimes that how do you even spend your day? Where do you even begin? But I think that when you're a team, you're just more business. And so it's still a lot of work. It's just different. It's spread out differently.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. For sure.
How long did it take you to get, and I don't know if this is true, more listings than buyers? Like how long did that take?
I've never worked with buyers.
Oh.
So my first year in the business, this is what I mean. I feel like I graduated at 14 and was totally emotionally immature to do this job at this level. My first year in real estate, I sold 42 listings sold.
How?
Girl, I don't know.
She worked her butt up.
I was terrified the whole year. I was terrified. I want to hide under my bed, terrified. Not gonna lie. But I mean, it was a lot. It was very challenging.
Taking this a little, I was thinking about you with the listings. Where are you with open houses now?
We do some open houses depending on the listing. They have been pretty well attended, but a lot of them have agents. A lot of the buyers that come through already have agents. So it's not really a great lead gen opportunity right now, but if a seller really wants one, we'll do one.
Okay. Are you having a person sign in at the door to make sure there's not multiple people in the house at the same time and all of that sort of thing?
There's 2 people, one inside the house, one at the door, outside, signing people in, checking IDs. We want to make sure that we've got a good, accurate list of who's coming and going. So we've done a couple, but most of them are buyers represented by agents already.
Okay. Which is interesting to know that that's different. I wonder why. I don't know if there's a reason for that.
I don't know.
I think what I'm hearing from buyers is that they just feel that the definition of open house has changed and that they're not allowed to go into a house without permission.
Could be.
And to find an agent to get permission. So a lot of them that are represented by an agent actually have not even met their agent yet. They just found one on Zillow and said, hey, I want to go to this open house. And then they go. I mean, I'm finding a lot of weird stuff. Like my buyers, I told them to go to an open house. They went to an open house and they didn't go in because they didn't see me there. And they said, I didn't know I was allowed to go in without you. where
Oh,
under
interesting.
circumstances that would not have happened.
Yeah.
Could be.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's just harder to navigate.
Yeah. I'm finding a lot more agents playing around with how they're listing, right? There's the all virtual, or there's the like you have a 4-hour window to get in and then you need to put your offer in on Sunday, or there's the no delayed negotiations. I mean, I've never seen so much play with how a person is trying to list a house as now. And it's a little frustrating. I don't know how you feel about what you guys are thinking or how you're doing it.
So for me, it depends on what the seller wants. I had one seller recently that said we only want virtual, and it was a real deterrent to him because now buyers are getting in homes. When it was your only option, it was a viable option, but now that it's the least interactive option,
Right.
they weren't getting the showing, so they switched in the middle of their listing period with their delayed negotiations, and it dramatically increased the amount of showings, and the offers we got were procured from buyers who actually walked the property. So unless there's a real reason not to do in person, I would always say like this should be. So, and then you need at least, I would say 4 days. If you're going to do delayed negotiations at this point, you need to have time to let people get in there.
Yeah.
So
I've been surprised at the people who aren't doing delayed negotiations. I think with COVID, you need them more than ever. I don't know how you feel.
If I have a property that I feel is bordering on maybe a little overpriced, my strategy is we're not going to do delayed negotiations because time actually kills the excitement. Mm-hmm. So if it's a little overpriced or if there's something about it where I'm like, look, we're probably going to get 1, maybe 2 offers if we're lucky, then it's first come, first serve. Get your offer in. If you like it, do it now, don't wait. So it's just a different type of property, requires a different type of strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're still finding the green frenzy out there on most of the properties? Most of the properties still going over asking multiple offers, or is that slowing down a little bit from what you can
I haven't had a property list in the past. I had one list today. Last week I didn't have one list. And then previous to that, I had 1 or 2 lists. One of them had multiple offers, went very high over asking. The other house in a different town, almost the same house, had a reverse contingency of seller finding suitable housing. And they got 2 offers and did escalate over asking price, but not as much as they could have if it wasn't for that contingency. So I'm still seeing that it's pretty hot if you're under $250,000.
Right.
Anything over that is just kind of like, it's maybe. You might get 2 offers. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. All right, guys. I think we're getting close. Any other last minute questions out there? Anybody?
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Chelsea. This was awesome. Like hugely informative. Really appreciate
thank
it.
you so much. Who knew? From jewelry, watch queen to I knew that you had something to do with your makeup because makeup is always perfect on you. And I won't lie, I have makeup envy. I need to learn your skills there, sister. But
I know Chelsea needs to have a makeup class. We could do that
I know.
was so much fun.
I thought about that, like before headshots or whatever, but anyways, I digress. But thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. And such a great idea to just chill out and talk about the bids.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. And you gave us a lot of information, so appreciate it.
Nice.
I'm glad to be here.
All
Thanks.
right, awesome. All right, bye guys.
Bye. See you later.
Thank you.